Okay, so I'm sure as you can see by the light, it's not a normal daytime video that I'm looking at. And the reason for that is I'm looking for and trying to find the largest owl that we have here in the UK, the Tawny Owl. The Tawny Owl is a truly nocturnal bird, so therein again, the challenge of finding them is great. Getting near to them in the wild to photograph them is even greater. So come and join me on my challenge to find the Tawny Owl. As we know, Tawny Owls are really fascinating birds and they're very secretive, and as I've said, they're quite difficult to get near to photograph them. So what I want to do in this video is look at how to identify the Tawny Owl. We'll look at the habitat, where you're likely to find them and what signs to look for in actually locating them and how to go about doing that. And then I'm going to talk to you about a little challenge that I've set in addition to finding the Tawny Owl, and that's to do with putting a nest box up. So how do we identify the Tawny Owl? Well, the Tawny Owl is the UK's largest and most numerous owl out of the 5 that we have. We have the little owl, the barn owl, the short-eared owl, the long-eared owl and the Tawny Owl, and the Tawny Owl is the largest of all the owls that we have in the UK. So how do we identify it? Well, the Tawny Owl has a rounded body and head, has a dark ring around its face, has dark eyes, it's reddish brown chestnut above and it's slightly paler underneath. When it comes to the males and the females, they're very similar in appearance, but they differ in size, with the females being slightly larger than the males. Top tip, learn the Tawny Owl's call. It's really important to be able to identify the Tawny Owl's call. The fact is, you're more likely to actually hear an owl before you actually see one. And also, the calls of the male and the female are different. The Tawny Owl is the classic call that we hear, to wit, to who, but it's actually made by both birds. The male making one sound and the female making another. And here it is. The female makes a sharp quick or twit sound, and here it is. And the male responds with a wavering hoo hoo, hoo hoo, and here it is. The male uses his call to stake claim to a territory, whereas the female uses her call as a contact call with the male. And here is the call of both sexes together. The Tawny Owl calls are mainly heard, or the best time of year to hear them is this time of year. It's actually mid-November, so it's late autumn, early winter, and this is the time of year when Tawny Owls try to find a territory, and also they try to pair up ready for the breeding season early next year. So top tip, learn the Tawny Owl's call. Top tip, local knowledge. Having the knowledge of your local area is a really good way of trying to find the Tawny Owl. It really means getting out onto the ground, and the best approach in my opinion is to speak to a local landowner and farmers and seek their permission to access their land. Now, I did a previous video on how to go about asking for permission to get onto private land, and I'll leave a link for that below in the description. In my experience, landowners and farmers are very approachable. They have a passion for the wildlife that's on their property and are quite actually keen for people to keep an eye on the land for them when they're not around. And it also means that you're unlikely to get disturbed by the general public if you've got permission on private land to get out there. And I'm actually stood on some private land at the moment, and this is where I got permission from the landowner. I can come here and I can film and I can make my videos. So local knowledge is a great thing if you want to try and find the tawny owl. So where are we going to find the tawny owl, or the tawny owl's habitat? Tawny owls are very territorial. In fact, they're the most territorial owl of all the owls that we have. Once they establish the territory, they'll stay in it and they won't move from it. The tawny owl is mainly a woodland owl, and it can be found in places like woodlands, like this wood behind me, and I have heard owls in this wood. Deciduous woods mainly, can be found on farmland. This wood actually sits in an area of open farmland, and again I'll talk a little bit about that later on when I talk about how to locate owls. You can also find them in mature gardens which have large trees in them, and they can be found in parkland. The preferred place that a tawny owl is looking for to roost during the day is in a mature tree with lots of good solid perches tight in up against the trunk of the tree, or in a hollow in the tree. And that is the most likely place that you're going to actually see a tawny owl during the day, at roost, perched up against the trunk or sitting in a hollow of the tree. I just want to take a little time out for a minute just to give you a look forward to another challenge I'm going to set you, or set myself in relation to the tawny owl. And that is, I've got a nest box which a very good friend of mine, Alec, thanks Alec, has provided me with. I've heard the tawny owls, I know the woods that they're in, I think I've found the right spot for them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the tawny owl box up, and I hope to be able to follow that in the spring as a success. So look forward to that video next year in 2025 with Kevin Hatley Photography. And now back to finding the tawny owl. Top tip, research. Like any other wildlife subject, in my opinion, the more you know about your subject, the greater your chances are that you're going to actually find them and get close to them and photograph them. Research is a key element to any wildlife subject that you're looking to try and photograph. So the type of things you need to be looking at are obviously things like books. There's a couple of books here that I've got on owls, which I find are absolutely great. YouTube, obviously, the fact you're watching this on YouTube shows that you're trying to find out about the tawny owl and how to find them. Google, another great thing. And I go back to the fact about local knowledge and getting out onto the ground and spending time and doing your research. Understanding the tawny owl's behaviour and their habits and where you're likely to find them is going to get you closer. So top tip, do your research. When it comes to the tawny owl's diet, tawny owls mainly, like the majority of owls, tend to mainly feed on mice and voles. They tend to be their main food source. They'll also take small birds, frogs, insects and worms. And what they'll do is they will silently swoop down on their prey using their sensitive sight and hearing to actually locate the prey and then pounce on them. What they're feeding on will depend on their habitat and the time of year and the weather conditions. The tawny owl's diet. Top tip, signs to look for when you're trying to find a tawny owl. Tawny owls will leave signs of their presence. The kind of things that you need to be on the lookout for are things like the pellets. Now, a tawny owl pellet is different from a barn owl's pellet as it is to a little owl's pellet. Barn owl pellets tend to be round in shape. Little owl pellets tend to be smaller, and you find a lot of shells, little hairs, etc. in the little owl pellet. And when it comes to the tawny owl pellet, you'll find a lot of fur and bones in it, and it's elongated. Look to find them in hollows and trees, and what I'll do is, if I'm walking through a wood, if I see a hollow, I'll always put my binoculars up just to check to see if there's anything in it, and that's where they're going to roost, and that's also where they're going to nest in. It's not just hollows and trees that they'll nest in, they'll also nest in large nests of things like crows, buzzards, things like that, old nests, they'll use them as well. Another identifying feature again to look for when you're walking through the wood is what's known as whitewash. So where a bird has been sitting up in a tree, roosting, and its droppings fall down and you have what's known as whitewash. Another thing to be on the lookout for, again when you're walking through the wood, is to listen out for alarm calls. Now, other birds don't like tawny owls, they're big birds. Although generally not seen during the daylight hours, but when the tawny owl goes to roost, if there are small birds around, they will mob the tawny owl and try to piss him off and try to get it to move, or the birds will just scatter and move themselves. I've witnessed, especially at dusk on a couple of times, smaller birds start to go crazy. That's as the tawny owls become active in the early evening. Blackbirds especially get very vocal, and they're normally one of the first to react to the presence of an owl being there. So knowing the blackbird call or the alarm of the blackbird is helpful in actually finding the tawny owl. Top tip, invest in time. Finding tawny owls is not easy, as I'm sure that you'll find during this video. If it was easy, everybody would be out there finding tawny owls, photographing them, video them. It's not an easy thing to do. So you have to spend the time and the energy in trying to find the tawny owl in the first place, track it down, and then get the chance to photograph it or film it. The more time you put into it, the more chances will increase to get that opportunity to actually find the tawny owl, get near to it and photograph it. As we've found, the easiest way to find a tawny owl is to hear them. Once you're confident that they're present, preferably you obviously want a pair. So remember, we go back to the calls, being able to identify what a male sounds like and what a female sounds like. By identifying the signs, also, they will allow you to narrow down an area where you think the tawny owl is going to be. Tawny owls are really difficult to spot due to their amazing camouflage and the fact that they prefer to perch and roost tight up against a trunk or in the hollows of trees. So put the time in. You've got to put the time in if you want to find the tawny owl. So how do we actually go about finding the tawny owl? Why am I sat in my car? Well, as I said, I've got permission on private land. What I've actually done is I've actually positioned the car at night. This is obviously video for during the day, but I positioned my car and it sits in the centre of 3 small woods up in a little bit of high ground, and I just sit in the car, lights off, windows down, and I just sit and I wait and I listen, and I'm listening for the call, and I keep reiterating just how important it is to be able to identify the tawny owl call. In this location I've spent a number of nights. To this date, in the past month, I've heard a tawny owl in each of the woods. Now, the fact is that what I've heard is a female. So I know that there is tawny owls here. I certainly know there's definitely a female here because I can identify a call. So it's that time of the year where the young tawny owls are chased off the territory they were raised in by their parents, and they're out looking to establish their own territory. I go back to the call again. The fact that the male will make the to-woo sound, which is the sound that he uses to establish his territory. The female use the twit sound, which is a contact call, and the combination of the twit and the to-woo tells you that you've got a pair of tawny owls in that area. So I'm going to keep monitoring this location, and hopefully quite soon I'm going to hear the to-woo from a male in conjunction with the female. That's the plan. So you need to invest the time, and you need to get out at night, try and find an area, sit, be quiet, wait, listen, and once you've listened and once you've heard that there's tawny owls there, then you need to go to the next stage, which is then to get out onto the ground and look for the signs that there are tawny owls in that area. Good luck. Okay, what I'd like to do now is just leave you with some of my favourite images that I've managed to get of the tawny owl, and I hope you enjoy them. Thanks for watching this edition of Kevin Hatley Photography and how to find the Tawny Owl. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Really enjoyed the challenge of going out and try to find the Tawny Owl. It really is a challenge and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, all I would ask is that if you liked it, could you hit the like button? Could I also ask you to subscribe to my channel, Kevin Hatley Photography. It's completely free, doesn't cost anything. And what that does is it just allows me to grow the channel and give me the opportunity to keep sharing my knowledge and my experience with other people around the world. So, until the next time, stay safe, take care, and I hope to see you soon. Bye for now.